Yes.
We'll get started. If Brent comes, he can join us. Good evening. I don't have my gavel, so I will tap on the table. Good evening, and welcome to the special September 23rd, 2019 special meeting of the Foxborough School Committee. We are here tonight to, oh, here comes Brent.
Here we come.
Right on time.
Just
getting started. We have one item on our agenda for this evening. We are here to vote on the general contractor for the Borough School project. Are there any visitors who wish to be heard before we get going with our discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Yukno, would you like to give us the overview of the bids?
Sure. So the bids are done in two pieces. The second page of the handout that you have shows what are known as the file sub-bidders. These are major categories on the project that by law you have to bid out separately, and they are then chosen by the general contractor to be used under the total bid. The thing I want to point out here is you can see what our budget numbers were from our estimates. The first column, $13,559,000. The actual bids coming in totaled $13,433,000. So that's extremely close, which kind of leads you to believe that the documents were pretty good and pretty tight, that people knew what they were bidding against. The only interesting thing here was, of the 5 general contractors that bid, 4 of them chose not to use the low electrical contractor, and they went with an SE's Electric, which was only $11,000 different. And the low one that we're actually going to recommend to you tonight also chose an SE's instead of the low bidder, because either they've had experience with them before, or failed. And they have the right to do that with file subbids. They could choose.
So they did not go with the lowest bidder.
So they could all choose the highest if they wanted. Obviously, they might lose the bid if they did, but so this is the only one that they chose to use different than the category. So again, even with that, we're still below what the estimates by the estimators came in at. So if you flip back to the first page, you'll note that all file subbidders and general contractors were pre-qualified, which is a state law based on the size of the project, which means we have to investigate all of them for their status within the state as far as doing projects. It means we get reference checking on them done up front. We see that they're capable of doing projects of this size. All of that has been vetted before we go out to bid.
And we had a subcommittee of the school building committee that did the pre-qualification process with you and the architect, Colliers, and also
Carl Fuller, John Hardy,
Yep,
and as Tina said, the architect, head for the architect and our OPM sat on that committee together, and they virtually did all of the calling for the reference checking and documentation that way.
It's an extensive process,
yes,
a lot of work.
So that basically makes it so that when you go out to bid, these are all qualified candidates. So unless something significant has happened from the time you've done the pre-qualification, you really don't have a reason to disqualify them at this point in time.
Yeah. Just for the edification of our public, if they are listening, could you restate the makeup of the building committee so people will know how this is arrived at?
I can actually
the
do
members.
That.
Yeah, Bill.
So the building committee is the school building committee is actually designed in general by the MSBA. The required candidates on the committee are a member of the school committee, a member of the Board of Selectmen, your town manager, your finance director for your town, your MCPPO certified person, which I'm the only one, so that's me, the principal of the school, the superintendent of the school, the assistant superintendent is an option, but it's not a requirement. And then you get into category of others. So what we chose to do was to also appoint the entire permanent municipal building committee, which is a 9-member board. So we ended up, at one point we had 18, but with some changes, I think we're down to 16 at this point in time. And basically what that does for as far as the state's concerned, is it keeps all stakeholders in the town involved. So it's not just a school project that only the school people know what's going on. It's also something that obviously Town Hall and Town Administration knows what's going on, as well as the Board of Selectmen. So, so again, the committee is a pretty extensive committee, and has full membership of the permanent building committee as well, sitting on it.
Thank you, Bevy, because that's a great point to bring up, and it
Right,
also,
so that-
having the whole permanent and municipal building committee on our school building committee just gives us a wealth of experience and people who really know
And many
what
eyes
they're
and-
doing, yes,
right.
exactly.
And I think that's an important, for this kind of a decision, that
Yes,
our stakeholders understand.
I agree.
So although the total project was originally approved by town meeting at $34,671,567, this portion of it, which is just the contract, the construction portion of it, because obviously we have architectural fees, OPM fees, insurance costs, contingencies, and a number of other things, was estimated to be at $27,057,700. As you can see, all 5 of the companies that chose to bid on this, all were under that number. The bottom 3, or the low 3, are actually so close, within a few $100,000 of each other, on a $27 million number, that really, again, shows that the documents had to be pretty good, because they all knew what they were bidding on to come that close. One of the indicators that you can get is if you look at the alternates, which is the second column over, third column, I guess, actually. We didn't choose to have alternates that would add to the project. We chose to say, if we got financially, if it was too close, could we have alternates that we could deduct from the project? Yeah. And when you look down the list, because they all are based on the same 6 deletes, you see how close they are in what the numbers are. Again, very clear on what those deducts were. So overall, you would assume very clear on the overall specs of the project on what they were doing. Obviously, the deducts were not things we wanted to do as a school building committee, but only if we had our back up against the wall, and it was the only way we could do the project. I'll go down the list quick on the deducts, because quite honestly, I think you should vote the same way that the building committee did, which was to reject the deduct alternates, because we don't feel that they're necessary, number one, nor are they the best thing for the project. So, and these have to be done in an order in which you would accept them. So the first one was that you have to accept before you can get to the second one, if you were going to go that route. The first one is actually electric vehicle charging stations. And under the energy code, we do get credits for the efficiency of the building, so we could get to a bronze or a silver or a gold level. We get points for having these on the grounds. The reality is there are more and more people that do have them, and it is possible teachers and parents coming in could have these cars nowadays, because a lot of them are becoming more commonplace. So that was one item. The second one was some fencing that was an area that could we could keep students out of. It wasn't a total requirement, but we thought it would be a better thing for the project in the end. It was off the backside.
Is that temporary fencing, or is that
No, it's permanent. It was
Okay.
permanent fencing that was going to go in. We had other fencing that we kept, but this, we said if we had to get rid of it, we could get rid of this one section. The sidewalks were designed originally for 6-foot wide sidewalks. We could convert down to 5-foot wide. Again, the 6-foot we feel is better when you have large groups of kids. The CMU versus a studded wall. CMU is concrete masonry walls. So it was the difference of having concrete walls in some areas versus having metal studs. And we'd love to have the concrete walls because they're much more durable, longer lasting, less maintenance. But again, it was an area that if you had to pull some money, that would be a way of doing it. The ceramic tile issue is in the bathrooms. We've always used this as an option to be able to save money, and that is either running the tile halfway up a wall or running it up the full way up a wall. Obviously, for longevity, cleanliness, and everything else, the full wall of tile is the best way to go. But again, in an elementary, if you had to, halfway up is about as far as their hands might be able to reach, would be okay. And then the final thing was
As crucial as in high school.
the final thing was the generator. We are now, and have for the last couple of projects, designing our generators to run the entire buildings. Taylor School is a great example of this. When we lose power there, they don't even know it. The
That's
building still
great.
runs 100%. Kitchens, lighting, it's not just life safety. So that's what this thing was designed to do. So we can run the entire thing, except for air conditioning. We will not run air conditioning in that point. And the systems know when you're on generator load not to allow air conditioning to come on. But it would run everything else. So, presumably in the winter, you'd have your heating systems on, all your lights would be on. You would not know virtually that the building wasn't being powered by National Grid at that point. So that was the largest single one, but it was really the last thing we wanted to touch if we had to touch something. So the school building committee voted this afternoon to reject all of the deduct alternates, and they are already included in what you see as a bid price to the right of them, to the left of them, sorry. So I guess the first recommendation I would make to the school committee is to follow suit with the school building committee and to reject going to the deduct alternates.
Do we need to do these item by item?
No, you can just.
So I could make a motion to reject the alternative deduct items as a whole slate.
Correct.
I will do that.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion about the deduct alternates? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? That's 500.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that brings us back to the general contractor and the final bid. CTA Construction is the low bidder, as you can see, at $25,900,000. CTA also did the high school project with us. It was a phased project over a couple of years. At the time, our experience was pretty good. We had the only minor issue we had with them on this project was there was turnover in their site management. But I got to tell you, pretty much every project that I've worked on in town, we've had that. So that, to me, is not a reason to, have a negative feeling about it. They have, in fairness, had some conflicting results recently on a couple projects. Some were good, some were bad. But I also want to be very cautious when I say that because it can be a number of different things. It could be a bad set of plans that someone's working off of, and that then ends up being the general contractor's issue to have to deal with. It could be, a bad team that was put together from CTA or from the group in general. So you just never really know what the cause of it is. As I said to our committee, we are fortunate that we've gone through a number of projects with some difficult, contractors and stuff, and we've always been able to pull our way through it because we know what we're kind of looking at and what we need to do. I don't consider CTA that type of a customer, as far as a vendor, but I really hope that they perform the way they performed on the high school project and, meet our expectations. So the recommendation we have, and we have no reason not to have, is that CTA be awarded the contract to do the borough project.
Okay.
Just as another point of reference for you, what's interesting here is CTA did the high school, Agostini did the Ahern. Two projects that actually went very well for. So out of the 5, we had 2 contractors that either one I would have been, willing to go forward with. The others I don't know and haven't worked with.
Does anyone have any questions for Bill?
Thank you for all the work.
It's a committee. It's a lot of people
I'll
involved.
thank your committee. Committees.
If there are no questions, could we have a motion to approve CTA construction?
So moved. I would move to approve CTA Construction Managers LLC
Second.
As the general contractor
general
for the Borough
contractor.
School project?
for the Borough School project as listed.
And Brent seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? 500.
So the only
Thank you.
last piece I want to put onto this, so that it's very clear to everybody. MSBA's funding is at a 59% reimbursement, and actually 56% reimbursement. but-
56?
56. But what happens in the process is the second we accept a bid that's under what the original
Budget
projected
amount.
budget was, they will immediately send us a budget amendment to reduce their part of it by their share. It's standard practice. This is exactly what happened on the high school, where we came in roughly $6 million under budget, and they immediately took $3 million back off the grant money. So it's, I just, in
that's-
transparency,
That
in
makes-
transparency,
That's fair.
what we've done is we've always left our balance into the thing just in case we needed it from a contingency point of view, if anything else were to come up when you open up the walls and start finding things. And if we don't use our money, it flows into our next town project. That's been the mode since I've been on the building committee, probably now for 17 years. So, but I just want to make sure that you all understand that funding agreement we signed a while ago will now get altered, and it will get reduced by roughly $500,000, a little bit over.
Once that comes forward and goes through the school building committee, does it come here? Does it go to town meeting?
No, it's because it's it's just a funding document itself. It will go right to town, to Bill Keegan, to be signed off on. It doesn't require any
It
additional.
doesn't require a secondary.
No, because
vote.
there isn't, it's not really a choice. It's just
Yeah.
that you're acknowledging that you're not going to get that amount of money.
And we knew those, we knew that, we knew those
Going
Yes,
in.
procedures
they're
once
very
we
clear.
went through the project
Yes,
initially. So
when we
this
signed
is-
the original document, it was very clear in that document that this would happen. So unless you hit the exact number, they're gonna, if it's less, you're gonna get less. If it's more, you're not gonna get more.
You're not getting.
So,
And we knew that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when we voted on it at town meeting,
When
Bill
we
explained
done-
this all, and when we voted on it here, we did as well. But it's a good, very good question, Brent. Is there anything else for Bill? Okay, then. Anything else we need to discuss?
No, I think we're all
The
just looking forward to the
timeframe
project.
going forward is, now that we've voted, you're going to negotiate the contract with CTA.
Right, the contract was actually, the document itself is a standard AIA contract. It's one that the MSBA has endorsed, and it was already reviewed by town council, as well as the front documents, which had all of the legal requirements for insurances, bonding, and all of that, and had all been blessed. So again, we've been staying ahead of the curve as far as making sure everything is done prior to getting here. So the contractors have seen, everybody who bid on this saw the contract. It was in the specs. They knew what they were going to have to sign. There's always some little adjustments to different things that you have to double check on. There might be insurance, things or whatever. But it should be a relatively smooth process to get to a signed contract. And our hope is still to be having the foundation go into the ground end of October, beginning of November, to start the process so that we can start the additions, which is critical time-wise.
That's nice.
So we've
That's 5
been
weeks
we've been
away, 5
able
to
over
6
the
weeks.
last year and a half to keep ourselves right on the schedule that was dictated from day one, which hasn't been easy, but it's worked.
It's been a lot of work, but
That's why I've
mostly
asked
by
you to be
you.
here today,
And-
so that
and,
we can keep going.
yeah. Well, thank you all for being willing to come in
Yep.
on an extra Monday night for the special meeting. Is there any other questions before we wrap things up? Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting tonight.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of adjournment? 500. And thank you to Foxborough Cable Access for coming in on a Monday night to
For just
show
a-
this to the townspeople of Foxborough. We appreciate it.
I know,
Thank you, Mike.
it'll take Mike longer to set up and take down than our meeting took, so many,
Well, we
many
appreciate that.
appreciative.
Absolutely. Thank you, and good
Thanks.
night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.